Okay, this is, well, you're going to get some exciting something today, because I'm actually presenting some of my research from my PhD, which includes both a qualitative and a quantitative aspects. The qualitative is interviews, which is ongoing, but the quantitative is my survey, which I've decided to name End of a Perfect Day. But the research aims is to see how transgender communities interact with each other, the experiences within social institutions within New Zealand, the role of community and identity formation among trans people, and more importantly, telling the stories of trans and intersex people. The methods, I use both qualitative and quantitative methods. It's a community-based participatory research method, so involving combining academic and community expertise, which is used to enhance the relevance of the research questions and increase trans communities' power within the project. And this is that was the first page of my survey. So you can see I decided to go with sex assigned at birth, and I put on all these gender identity questions, and I included a separate question on intersex. In some research, intersex is included in gender identity, which is not really fair on intersex people who might not necessarily see their being intersex as their gender identity. Okay, there was my qualitative methods. Hope to have 30 in-depth interviews. I've done so far about 13. Participants are drawn from across the trans community and around New Zealand. My entire survey is basically people living in New Zealand, so both sections involve just people in New Zealand. Yeah, so I've decided only talking about these experiences of discrimination. I based a lot of my questions on a British survey called Engendered Penalties, which is done in 2007. So there's preliminary results. This is from America. The Grant et al. One is Injustice at Every Turn, which is like the big first survey, which had about 6,500 trans people. And they found that 37% had experienced economic discrimination, 63% had some sort of serious form of discrimination, and 11% was sex workers, and around like almost 21% in Kaseko, which is a UK survey. They had about the denial of services, especially when they're engaging with medical services. But the one I've decided to do today is about my survey, which is mainly focused on people. So I had about 101 respondents, so around 35% were assigned female at birth, 65% were assigned male at birth. Neat thing about having 100 respondents, it makes it easy to do percentages. I also asked people's sexual orientation. The far majority identifies as bisexual or within the LGBTI spectrum, whether it's and just over 5%. Yeah, just over 5% identify as polysexual, which is okay. Yep.
What was the darker part?
Oh, okay, yeah, the darker part. Going back to when I first did the survey, I had I had it online for about a week, and at that time I had 21 responses, and during that time there was several people raised concerns about this, offered advice on the issue. So that led, after discussion with one of my supervisors, we decided to bring it down, update the questions, taking into account this advice. So that's where you got the darker one, and the darker one is this first 21 responses. and subsequently the lighter ones are the responses from the responses to the survey based on these changes. Okay, so this is a map, oh, you know where that is. So I chose this map in order to sort of show where everybody was. This one here is where everybody was, all my respondents were born. Most are in either Auckland or Wellington, and a few scattered around the rest of the country. And the second one where we currently live, most are now living in either Wellington or Auckland, and that's sort of proving to be interesting in itself, that most people are sort of gravitating to the main centres in order to access healthcare. Okay. The main thing of this is like, the main thing here is these ones here is educational attainment. So the large majority have high school, you know, like NCEA and school certificates and such like. But most have either a doctoral degree, master's degree, or bachelor's certificate, and there's quite a few that are trade qualified. Also asked respondents about whether or not they've been informally excluded from the university, like told not to attend various, not invited to seminars, not given opportunities to participate in research projects or be involved in other academic fields. 26% were informally excluded. The most were not, and about a third didn't know that. Didn't know anything about their transition. Okay, and also asked respondents about whether or not they'd been outed by lecturers or tutors at the university. That almost 19% were, whereas 81% weren't. Sorry, yeah. Go back. And also asked students about using the toilet. So this is about whether or not they've been here we are. Yeah, so I asked whether or not using the toilets, whether or not they felt the experience, whether or not they felt mostly tolerated and understood at the university or tertiary institution, whether they felt that they were less transphobic than elsewhere in the world, quite transphobic or very transphobic. As you can see, almost for 10%, for just over almost 11% was very transphobic being at the university or tertiary institution. Over 12% found it quite transphobic, and about 31% were mostly tolerated, and about a quarter or 45% was less transphobic than the rest of their lives. I'm not too sure whether that says anything. Okay, so this is an amalgamation of 3 different questions. They were, okay. The bottom one is this one here is, well, this light green One is being whether or not people have experienced it from fellow students. The middle one, the yellow one, is from whether or not they've been what they've heard from tutors and lecturers, and the third one was while they were using toilets and at the university. So we got the majority haven't had nothing like this has happened to me, and most don't know that. Most of the students don't know that they're went out in their preferred gender or acquired gender. I just want to read you a comment from one of my, because in the survey I allowed the students to provide how transphobic their institutions were. They could write exactly what they... and one of my respondents said about their institution, by and large it is the student body that I find transphobic, less than the staff. The departments I had interaction with have had a very accepting staff members, but it may not be like this everywhere. As for the students, I do not feel safe in certain environments, e.g. street parties, large student events, student-dominated clubs, bars, or campus streets at night. Also, there is no gender-neutral bathrooms, which is something seriously lacking nationwide. It's affecting me greatly, but I know trans and queer students who have suffered because of this. And I had here's another quote from another student. During my tertiary studies, I was not out, not as asexual, or as intersex, or as trans. I have no idea whether the tertiary institution I attended, Welltech, Victoria University of Wellington, specifically, if that matters, have queer office. And then I asked. I asked students whether or not if you feel their institution, tertiary institution or university are transphobic, which is sort of similar to what I asked. I also got some more responses. In one of them, most LGBT-related events on campus used to feel largely geared towards gay male audiences. I realise this is hardest to implement gender diversity campus-wide, but I feel that as the halls are offering orientation, it should be absolutely be noted that there are safe spaces for gender diverse people, i.e. queer support, as there are spaces for marrying Pacific students, religious student groups and social. There was none during my education. And lastly, I'll just give you one more. Asked how is affecting respondents in their studies. I had one from who has worked as a tutor. No, I worked at a tertiary institute as a tutor, and I provide a safe learning environment for my students regardless of the differences they may have. My classroom is a place of learning and where never one of discrimination. My students all respect me and enjoy the classes, and they have been active and very inclusive. I wish as a tutor I had more support for my transition, which I am going through at work and at home, etc., as I've been on HRT for 7 to 8 months now, and it is my belief that it is my transition and no one else, and if people know this, well and good for them, but I firmly believe it's no one else's business but my own. I'm still the same person inside, just as my appearance is changing to a correct look that I should have had from birth. And Yeah, that's about it. I just have one more quote from another student. I was allowed to speak. I was allowed to seek counselling for free at the university through a program that let postgraduate students get practice hours. But I quit after a couple of sessions because I felt like the counsellor was uncomfortable with my gender, my sexuality, number of physical illnesses and severity of mental health problems. And that's sort of some of the things I've had from a lot of my these sort of text responses. And any questions, we'll go for that.